Hey howdy hey, what is going on you guys? Welcome back to another video with yours truly, Pyrotoad. Now in today's video, we are going to be doing a complete cane toad care. You heard it here, you heard it now, a complete cane toad care. Now I did a cane toad care a few years back and it actually got several thousand views. It did really well, but I was a lot younger and I don't have the same sort of knowledge then as I do now. So I'm basically going to be making a updated cane toad care video. But yeah, doing a cane toad care video is kind of a long overdue video that a lot of you guys wanted me to do. And then of course we'll be using our female cane toad Gucci in today's video because, well, you guys love Gucci. She is my dream pet and then a lot of you guys love seeing her in the video, so we'll be using Gucci in today's care video. But without further ado, let's get started on talking about the general care and information for cane toads. Now the first thing we're going to talk about when it comes to cane toads is the general knowledge and the general size that cane toads will get. Now there are a few different types of cane toads. There's your regular Florida caught cane toads, which typically don't get super big, and then there's the Suriname giant cane toad. The Suriname giant cane toad comes from the island of Suriname, and these toads get massive. Typically on YouTube videos and things like that, when you see a giant toad, it's usually a Suriname cane toad. Now our girl Gucci, on the other hand, she is a giant cane toad to say the least, but she is not a Suriname cane toad, so that makes her really unique. Now the reason why Gucci is a little bit more unique is, once again, usually the Suriname female cane toads are the ones that get super big and not any of your other regular cane toads. But a lot of you guys know we got lucky with Gucci. We got a special toad and she is huge. She's a huge female, but she's not a Suriname cane toad. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit more of a backstory on how Gucci, or why Gucci is so big. All because I got lucky. But there are other cane toads that are just regular non-Suriname cane toads that still do get big like Gucci. So she's not like one of a kind or anything like that, but she's definitely not super common either. Now the next thing you should know is that female cane toads get a lot larger than the males. So here is a pretty much fully grown male versus a near fully grown female, and you can see the absolute size difference these two have. I mean, look at those dudes. Gucci absolutely just dwarfs this male toad here, and this male cane toad is massive himself. This is not a small toad, but when you compare this little guy to Gucci, I mean, look at that. Look at that. Gucci, you're just a pure fatty. You're just a fatty, Gucci. So I did want to show you guys that right there. So female cane toads are generally going to get larger than the males. Now cane toads can be found in all sorts of different places, but they are native to South America. Being that they're native to South America, you definitely want more humidity than anything else in your enclosure. The other thing is they are native to South America, but they can be found in Australia, Florida, certain parts of Texas. I mean, they can be found in all sorts of different places. And cane toads are definitely the most, hardy species of toads that are out there. A lot of toads, if you get one little thing wrong, they're going to die off on you. Not with cane toads. These guys are severely invasive in a lot of different places, and they're very tough toads. They are very tough toads. They also have the name Bufo marianus, which basically means marine toad. So these guys can be called cane toads, marine toads, Suriname toads, Bufo marianus, Rhinella marina. They have a bunch of different names that all have similar meanings. And of course, Bufo marianus means toad, and marine, or marine being water. So these dudes, I will tell you, love lots of water. That's part of the reason they're so invasive in a lot of different places, is because they will actually breed in some of the most disgusting water you can imagine, and their eggs and their tadpoles will still grow into large healthy toads. So that's basically part of the reason they're so invasive, because they don't have to choose any specific pond or stream. They will breed wherever they can. But enough of that being said, cane toads have a giant, and I mean a giant story, and a lot of people don't really understand the depth in which their story goes. So hey, if y'all think I should do a video on the story of cane toads, let me know down in the comments. But now without further ado, let's move on to the next topic of cane toads. So next we're going to talk about lighting, heating, temperature, humidity, all that sort of stuff. When it comes to lighting your cane toads, you have a ton of different options. Now cane toads do fine in temperatures anywhere from 75 degrees to even as high as 85. So they are very broad spectrum toads when it comes to heating and whatnot. And you can use heat bulbs or you can use heat pads. Now, being that the reptile room here stays about the high 70s, I don't keep any sort of heating on Gucci. Usually in the reptile room here, the whole ambient temperature throughout the reptile room is about 77 degrees or so. So Gucci is just fine chilling at that temperature. But if your room or wherever you're keeping your pet cane toad is not that warm, you can always get a heat pad and put it on the bottom, side, or you could get a heat bulb and put it on the top. For example, these daylight heat bulbs right here work really well, and I use them on my Sonoran desert toads. So heat pad works really well, heat bulbs work really well. I personally haven't found a major difference in between the two. Now, if you're not careful and you get a super warm heat bulb, you can actually burn your toad, overheat your toad. So just make sure you're mindful of what type of heat bulb and heat pad you're using. When it comes to humidity of cane toads, I like to keep them anywhere from 60 to 80% humidity. They do really well in all sorts of different temperatures and humidity levels. And if you want to increase the humidity of your enclosure, all you have to do is just spray it down with some nice dechlorinated water. That's basically it. That's all I do with Gucci's cage to increase her humidity, is just spray it down all over the place, the glass, the back, the leaves, etc. And with my female cane toad personally, she sits about 65 to 70% humidity during the daytime hours and a little bit more during the night if I spray her cage down. Next, we're going to talk about housing here. Now, I keep my female cane toad in a 40-gallon breeder, and that is what I recommend for one adult female. Even being as big as Gucci is, you can always go bigger and get a bigger cage, but she honestly doesn't do much. She either goes in her hide or in her water bowl. There's no in between. She just chills in either one of those spots. So the 40-gallon enclosure that she's currently in is doing a fantastic job, but I'm looking to upgrading her cage eventually. So for one female, I recommend a 40-gallon breeder, and for one male, I recommend a 20-gallon long. Eventually, I'm going to do a 75-gallon enclosure for Gucci and for Gucci alone, and she's going to have a waterfall, live plants, but that'll be a huge project for another video. You can also create your own enclosures or use PVC enclosures like this one here. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but this is what Gucci's in, just for you guys to get an example. It's a 40-gallon long, just like so. Front opening doors, hide, water bowl, some plants, a little fake background, and an LED light. But I will say that these PVC enclosures would work really well if you're keeping a cane toad in one. They help hold humidity and heat really well, so these are another great option. But you will want to note that they are a little bit more expensive. For example, a PVC cage that's about the size of a 40-gallon is going to cost you about $400 or so, whilst a regular 40-gallon is going to cost you about $100 to $150. So definitely keep that in mind. Now, what kind of decor are you going to keep for your cane toad? Personally, I recommend at least one hide, one large water bowl, maybe a food dish, that's a little bit more optional, and some plants. The more hides you can add, the better. Cane toads love to burrow and will create their own hides, but if you can also provide additional hides, whether that's the ceramic hides like this one, or whether it's cork rounds and whatnot like this piece here. For what, I definitely recommend having lots of hideaways, lots of options for your toad to hide. That's going to be very important to help minimize stress on your cane toad. You're definitely going to want a lot of hides if you're just now buying a cane toad, because once you put it in your enclosure, that cane toad is going to go and hide. It's not going to want to be seen by humans. It's going to want to go somewhere dark, hide, and just do its thing. But yeah, Gucci's got this absolutely massive ceramic hide. This thing's huge, but of course, we got to give Gucci the best of what we can get her. Next, I really recommend having plants in your enclosure. It doesn't really matter if they're live or if they're fake. You just got to have some plants. Once again, that's going to give them foliage to hide in. And when you spray it down, the water droplets on the leaves will help increase the humidity in the enclosure. So yeah, I definitely recommend some fake plants or live plants. It doesn't really matter. And heck, if you do a cane toad bioactive setup, more power to you. Having live plants and having a live setup for a cane toad is probably the best option you can have. Now, what about water? What about water bowls? How are you going to keep your toad hydrated? Well, of course, you have the option of spraying them down, but I always recommend keeping a large water bowl. Your cane toad over here is going to spend a huge amount of its time in its water bowl. As a matter of fact, it's probably going to spend like half of its life in its water bowl. I'm not even kidding. They use their water bowl to drink, they use their water bowl to poop and pee, they use their water bowl to sleep. I mean, they use their water bowl for just about everything. Example, come here Gucci, come here big girlie, I need you for a second, come here fatty, come here big girlie, come on. If we put Gucci in her water bowl real quick, come on fat girl, come on, real quick. You can see how much space she takes up in her water bowl. She takes up almost the entire bowl. There's just a few little edges here that she's not in. Sorry, Gucci. So you definitely want a large water bowl so that your toad can soak and just basically just chill. This water bowl is basically Gucci's little jacuzzi. This is where she spends all of her time. The other thing is make sure you dechlorinate the water before you put your toad in it or before you put the bowl in the cage. If you use regular sink water, the chlorine and other chemicals in it can actually be harmful to your beautiful cane toad. So I always use this ReptiSafe, and what I'll do is I'll just add a couple drops to the water and it'll dechlorinate it all for me. That way our beautiful toad Gucci can't get harmed by bad water. Next, we're going to go ahead and talk about bedding, or the substrate for the bottom of your enclosure. Now, with bedding on cane toads, the main thing that you want to kind of take into consideration is you want to give your toad enough loose substrate to be able to burrow. So cane toads will actually burrow a little bit, not a huge amount, but they will burrow a little bit. So I like to use Eco-Earth, but you can also use jungle mix, cypress mulch, repti bark, a mixture of all three. It really doesn't matter. You just want a good healthy substrate that you know you can trust, that's going to be free of pesticides or insects or mites or anything like that, and that will hold humidity for your toad and will allow your toad to burrow just a little bit. So for example, on the cane toads that I'm actually selling, I have a pretty good layer of cypress mulch down, but for our girl Gucci, she's got this sort of jungle mix mixture. She's got leaf litter, Eco-Earth, and a bunch of other loose substrate. But yeah, this stuff right here, Eco-Earth, is a #1 recommendation for cane toads. Next up, we're going to talk about vitamins and supplements. Now, when it comes to vitamins and supplements for cane toads, there's really only two that you need. Those two are going to be ReptiVite and calcium. ReptiVite and calcium powder are basically going to be the two main vitamins and supplements that you will give to your toads, and really the only ones that you need to give them. The calcium, of course, is going to help prevent your toad from getting metabolic bone disease, and of course keep your toad's bones strong and healthy. The ReptiVite, of course, is basically a multivitamin, so your toad's going to get a whole bunch of different vitamins that do a whole bunch of different things from it. So definitely give them ReptiVite and calcium powder. Now you may be wondering, Christian, how am I going to give my toad these vitamins? How am I going to get it in their system? Well, it's a great question. Basically, all you're going to do, once a week, all you're going to do is dust the ReptiVite onto the insect that you're feeding your toad, and then of course just feed them to your toad. With the calcium, it's the same thing, except you're only going to do that about 2, maybe 3 times a week. So vitamins once a week, calcium about 2 to 3 times a week. You're just going to dust it on the insects that you're feeding your toad, and then feed them off, let your toad ingest those vitamins, and you're good to go. Now I know for those of y'all who are beginners, all this sounds so complicated and so confusing, and I will say if I am missing anything or I seem like I'm saying things more complicated than they need to be, you can always just hit me up down in the comments or on my Instagram, TheRealPyroToadYT, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have. Next up, what are you supposed to feed your cane toad? Well guys, I will say this, they are not picky eaters, and 9 times out of 10, your cane toad is going to eat whatever you put in front of it. But I highly recommend frozen or live mice for adults or sub-adult cane toads, dubia roaches, mealworms, or crickets. That's basically what my female cane toad Gucci eats. As a treat, she'll get mice, and then more often than not, she'll get dubia roaches, mealworms, and crickets. Yeah, basically just insects for your cane toad. They're going to eat crickets, dubia roaches, grasshoppers, wasps, flies, whatever insect you can find for them, and even some small mammals like rats and mice. And they'll even eat snakes and things like that in the wild, small lizards, but you really don't need to feed them that. There's no point. It's just a waste of money, time, and effort. So once again, the main feeders I stick with are mice, roaches, mealworms, superworms, and crickets. Be sure to feed your toad at least 4 times a week. I know that seems a lot, but these toads will eat that much. They are absolute pigs, and you're going to want to feed them and feed them and feed them, and they're going to keep eating and keep eating and keep eating. And then with cleaning your enclosure, there's not much to it. All you're going to do is strip out all the stuff on the inside. Basically put a little bit of Dawn soap and just hose it off. That's all I do to clean my enclosures. If it's bioactive, of course, you don't have to worry about it. But if it's not bioactive, you're just going to take all the decor out, clean all the decor, and then of course take the cage out, dump all the substrate, add a few drops of Dawn soap, hose it off, let it dry, and you're good to go. You can use other fancy cleaning methods. You can use vinegar and water. There's all sorts of different things like that. Just don't use any bleach. Don't use any harsh or strong chemicals. Because remember, your toad is going to absorb everything through its skin. It's going to absorb water through its skin. It's going to absorb all sorts of stuff. So if there's a harmful chemical that you didn't clean up properly and it touches it, you take the risk of it killing your toad. I'm not even kidding. And also, before and after handling your toad, try to sterilize your hands. You can either wash them with soap and water, or you can use hand sanitizer. I personally, with all these different animals, just go through and use some hand sanitizer, and it seems to be what works best. Now, once I'm done with handling and tending to all these animals, then I wash my hands with soap and water really well. Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I will say do your own research as well. View other websites, look at other videos. Don't just look at my one video. Get as much information as you can on that animal before you buy it. Now, I do know a lot about cane toads. I have a lot of cane toads. I have a lot of information on cane toads, but I'm not a genius. I'm not a scientific cane toad expert. I'm sure somewhere out there is one. If you are interested in purchasing a cane toad, I actually do have a few for sale right there. They will literally be coming from me. All you have to do is message my Instagram, TheRealPireToadYT, and I will be happy to sell you guys a cane toad. And of course, you'll be able to know it's coming from me. It's coming from the reptile room. And of course, you can always message me if you have questions. Well, y'all, that was basically my updated and improvised version of how I think you should care for your pet cane toad. Now, of course, we've got a very big, fat, healthy cane toad right here, so I think you should be able to take my information and use it for your own pets. Ain't that right, Gucci? What's up, big girl? What's up? Do you have anything you'd like to say to them? But yeah, there y'all have it. That was a cane toad care video that you guys have been wanting to see for quite a while now. To be quite honest, I don't think our girl Gucci is very happy that I'm filming her right now, especially when she's naked in her bathtub. So we're gonna go ahead. Can we blur this? Can we get this blurred? Like maybe blur it so we're not exposing Gucci, because I'd hate for people to expose Gucci on the internet. But enough joking around. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like if you did enjoy today's video. After you've done that, make sure to subscribe. We're on the road to 3,000 subscribers, y'all. And at 3,000 subscribers, or somewhere around that, we're going to do a reptile room tour of all these animals. So just subscribe. Don't miss out. And then follow my Instagram, TheRealPireToadYT. Once again, you can message me if you have questions on cane toads or anything else like that. With all that being said, all my other links and information is going to be in the description of today's video, so definitely go check it out. And that was a quick little updated cane toad care video. If there's anything I missed, let me know down in the comments, and I will see you all in the next one. See you, Gucci. Say bye, Gucci. Say bye. Peace. I'm sorry that we exposed you like that, Gucci. Can you please forgive me? Please, big girl.